Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Happy to be back this Saturday, 7th day of March, 2026. And I hope that you are all doing well. I know this has been a trying time through the eclipse season. And today I want to share with you sort of what I've been doing behind the scenes, preparing for some new broadcasts and courses. And then I'm going to return to this collage comparison that I have been doing over several Saturdays this year. And kind of excited today, actually, about today's comparison. And it will be a rather long one. I am going to do a full side-by-side of the Tiger Tarot and the Dust Onyx Tarot with running commentary. Hi, Jen. Welcome. Welcome to you. So first of all, I just want to let you know that I have been doing a lot of planning. And welcome, Angela. And the first one out of the gate, actually not chronologically, but the first and the only one that is a separately paid course is Emotions and the Tarot. And many of you joined me for 24 sessions for my Advent calendar. And we started an exercise using the tarot to evoke an emotion in a drawn card. And what I'm going to do in this 3-part course is to do some follow-up exercises, to review the exercise in general, and to talk about its connection to the sacral chakra and the healing of this very challenging physical, emotional part of the body, whether you identify as female or whatever gender, it certainly is deeply applicable. So that is going to start on Sunday the 15th. And of course, it will be recorded and you can watch it again and again. It might take some time to absorb the content, especially if you're not really familiar with some of the chakra references that I have, but I'm going to try to make this as approachable as possible. And then the next one, or the first one that you will begin to see, is on Mondays. I'm going to be uploading a Minkyadi video. Hi, Jen. No, you do not. No, you do not. And I'm certainly going to do some education around this and why this kind of exercise is so important for this, and interestingly physically as well too. So I will be including introductory chakra content in the course. Thanks for asking. And then, so Mondays, I'm going to start uploading. These will be pre-recorded Minkyate reflections. And I'm going to be using the Bamarzo Minkyate. This one is a beautifully colored deck. And thank you, Jen. And I also will be using the mass market Minkyate Restore. And the resources from both of these Minkyate decks are absolutely brilliant. I will be talking a little bit about this today as I go through. I'm absolutely fascinated with the idea of working with the Minkyate Tarot in terms of the game rules. So I'm going to be approaching this a little bit differently than Masha's series. Masha, Musings by Masha, has started a Mesmerized by Minkyate series, and she's done a wonderful job in the intro of the history, the different kinds of Minkyate decks, and some of the groups of cards. It's certainly not completed. She's still working on that as well. So I'm going to approach this from a different angle. This is going to be from the angle of actually reading and working with the deck, in conjunction with the rules of the game and how we can apply the rules of the game as part of how we interpret the cards. And this is going to be so much fun. And I've also been really paying attention to other decks, that some of the older Italian tarots. I recently, finally, it was on my list of decks to purchase, was to purchase the Tarot of Musterberg. And it is also a game. And I may bring that out as well, too. I'm just so interested in, this thing that we work with for divinatory purposes used to be so much more playful. And, these tarot games are one of absolute mental gymnastics. There's so much to memorize, and it's really, really fun. So I think that this could add some sort of brilliance to Minchiate tarot readings. And so I'm going to start that, upload something for you every Monday. And I can't say at what time. I'm hoping to record them on the weekend so I can have them upload at a specific time. That is part of my intention. Donna, hello to you. Welcome. So that's the second thing. And lastly, there are others, but let's just go for 3 things today. So, do you know that there are several of you beautiful souls out there, in terms of membership, many people have been following me and contributing to the success of my channel through membership for over 48 months. And I am so humbled by your ongoing support of this channel. I decided with the Personal Decans mini-series that I was going to do this for Rose Quartz, as a Rose Quartz special feature. Now, this means if you are not a Rose Quartz member, you will not see it, but it also means that you can join at the Rose Quartz level for just a month, and then go back to your Carnelian or your Citrine level membership. But I decided that I want to do some more things for these people that have been incredibly supportive of my channel. And I feel so humbled by your following of me. Who am I really to be? Anyway, thank you. I just want to say thank you. So what's going to happen in this series is that I created a personal reflection. Now, these are my decans of my natal chart. And in this 3-part series, you will need to know your time of birth. You will need to know where your planets are in your natal chart. And of course, you can do a follow-up reading with me. You can, hire me to do this for you. But I'm going to show you how to do this for yourself. This reflection has been so potent in my own understanding of my personal readings. And if you have done a Decan walk, you will be kind of familiar with this. If you have kind of studied the 36 Decans and you sort of know where the kings and the queens fall, if you sort of know something about all of this, this is going to make a lot of sense. And it really has proven to add a lot of meat, another layer, many layers actually, to my own work as a tarot reader. Now, I don't do this for every reading that I do for people. I might focus on certain planets. And this is this actually mine? Maybe it is. I've got so many of these sitting in my download box that I I think this one is mine. But I'm going to share one or two of these. I don't want to end the stream. I want to stop sharing. That would be terrible if I press the wrong button. There we go. I do want to share one or two of these in each of the sessions to demonstrate how to go about this. And yes, I'm fully aware of that. Who is the Grand Duke? We'll talk about that. Okay. I'll make sure to address that in the series, in the Minkyate series. So this is something that I will, after the series is done, I'm going to put this up as a reading in my shop. And it won't be live. It's something that requires a lot of time and paperwork and energy, so it'll be an email reading if you're interested in this. But before that, I'm going to share the process with you in three, over the course of three, a mini series of 3 live streams, and of course you can watch the replay. So these are things that I have been planning and excited to be back, and I just cross my fingers that the internet cooperates. I've had all of my equipment replaced. I've had technicians here, and it's just, like I have said before, the most frustrating thing about live streaming, which I love to do because I love chatting with you and all of this. So yeah, that's what's coming up. Today, I want to return to the this idea of collage decks and how I have not been using them. And I've talked a little bit about this in the previous Saturdays. I do have a number of amazing collage decks in my tarot library, and I don't use them. And some of them I have purchased for particular reasons. I want to support the creator. I believe in the mission of the creator. Some of them just simply intrigued me, or it was one of those decks where there was one card that really called me in. Well, today I'm going to go through the Tiger Tarot and Dust to Onyx Tarot side by side and just talk about these decks. These are incredible decks. I want to honor the 2 women, one white, one black, who have created these bodies of work. And I thought to get into the mood of this, to honor the goddess, to honor the power, the strength, the courageousness of these creators, that I would read this poem to you from the Wee Moon Journal. Calling women rising in circles, offering mirrors and reminders. I see you. I know you are powerful too. We can no longer afford to be afraid, to hide, to be invisible or silent. The consequences long expired, as they thought we did too. We've come back, rising from the underground, potent seeds planted once, stir again, crack opened, send down stronger roots. That's the value of germination. We've become more potent in our dark dream beds, where we've been reading by starlight, the signs, the times, the openings, sending signals up to each other. I'm down here, and I know you are too. Didn't we make a pact agree to come back, do it differently, fearlessly, because we know our souls, our spirits are eternally alive. So let's rise now, reach out, touch fingertips until we fully grasp hands. I've got you, and you, and you. We've come full circle. Janet, Lucy. And yeah, Donna, sorry to hear you're not feeling well today. Yeah. And so this is I suppose today is a tribute to the power of the divine feminine and these quite extraordinary creations by Laurie Field and Courtney Alexander. Courtney Alexander created an amazing tome to go with their tarot deck. And this is just a beautiful, beautiful offering. Because I have an hour here today, I won't be reading too much from this. Laurie Field consulted Letitia Barbier, and Letitia Barbier assisted Laurie in creating a small little white book to accompany the Tiger Tarot. And some of you may know the work of Letitia Barbier. I will not be leaning too heavily on either of these books, and yet I may refer to them. Courtney Alexander, creator of the Dust to Onyx Tarot, wanted a deck to honor the Black diaspora, to really feel represented in the tarot, to honor the strength of not only women, but the power of and the greatness of all of those that have represented this culture. And I've said before that this deck for me really hits home in a lot of the cards, and I've been deeply, deeply touched by this. I use many of these cards in my teaching. I refer to them. Hi, Saskia. Welcome to you, Kalispara. And Tiger Tarot, not so much. It's not one I have really worked with. But because I have been studying many of these older decks lately, trying to draw comparisons, make sense of these decks that have been used for games, there's something very unique in this deck that I will get to when we get to the minor arcana. And so here we have the Fool and the Emerging One, and the energy of both of these cards. There's something about the blue in the background of the Fool card on the right that feels so light and so fresh. It's a little bit cold and new, and there's almost something biblical in the card on the left. And I think both of these cards tap into an important intention for both of the creators. Today, what I don't want to do is to diss collage decks. Today, I just want to honor the work of these two creators and take some time to reflect on these cards. You know, when I think about the third eye on the rather large third eye that is opening on the Emerging One here, it reminds me of the open fontanelle on young children. And that, for me, I think is a connection that's really important to remember, that if we can tap into the youth of who we are, there is an opportunity to connect with spirit. You know, this card has been one of great consternation as I study the Tarot de Marseille and many of the older decks, and I have really come to embrace a much wider interpretation of this card. I think we really need to pay attention when this card is here, and yet honor its strength. There was one line here that I believe I didn't underline it. The conjurer's job is to be mindful of the ripples they create. For every action has a reaction, and a person who has refined their magic knows how to consider the consequences of their choices. That's Courtney Alexander, Dust to Onyx. And on the right, isn't that an interesting card? Because I think about the one on the right in terms of older tarot decks and how we have children, we have people in the card who are watching the magician perform, and often outdoors, a street performer. When I think of this card, it makes me think of the Full Arcos Tarot and the work of Carmen Sorrenti. And both of these decks, both of the creators, talk a lot about dreams and how dreams inspired these decks. Laurie Field's work is a fantastical world, fantastical dream world. And there was dream after dream that inspired the Dust to Onyx Tarot. And I want to honor that world and all that can be revealed if we are courageous enough to process that, to take time, to journal and put intention to, and make that space sacred. Make our bedrooms sacred space, to make our sleeping time sacred space. And these Empress cards are just absolutely rich and stunning. And I want to say again, Laurie Field, creator of this tarot, is a white woman. And you can see her face. You can Google her work. She does have an Instagram page. A lot of this art is, if you Google Laurie, not Laurie the page, that is, that is Tarot of the Ozarks. This is Laurie Field. You probably will only be able to find this deck through resale on Facebook Marketplace. These cards, I just want to stare at them. I think they are so wise in their energy, and so rich. And there's another thing too about, when we get to the court cards, I'll talk about it. But Courtney Alexander, both of these deck creators change up the court cards. And so in Dust to Onyx, it is the queens who are the most authoritative of the courts. Both of these decks I would describe as queer decks, inclusive to the LGBTQI+ community, and honoring that fluidity through roles, through gender. There's a dynamism to both of these cards, a fierce a fierceness and a fearlessness. You'll notice that in Dust to Onyx, there are a number of name changes for the court cards. And you will recognize many of the eyes or the faces that inspired these cards. I just want to go back because I see Angela's comment here. Courtney Alexander writes, the lusciousness of your inner garden will pollinate others. There's something quite grand in both of these cards. I think that the Hierophant comes in many forms. And if we are truly paying attention, asks great things of us. And I know I have been, what is the verb to use? I don't know. You know, like I've come to tears in the presence of a Hierophant who is asking so much of me. And in that moment, I just don't know if I can do all that they are asking. It's as if they see something that you do not. And I remember that when this happened, remember this happened in a tarot. This has happened so many times to me, and it happened in a tarot reading once, and the tarot reader said, "Why are you on that side of the table?" I was quite floored. It's happened to me in India a couple of times, and I just felt so raw and seen in a way that I had never been seen before that moment. Now you'll notice in the Lovers cards that they all wear masks. And we know that those masks can empower as much as they can create a sense of falseness. And so kind of beautiful here how both of these creators use the mask in the Lovers card. I also think that these masks can be swapped. What if I walk a mile in your shoes? What if I choose the other mask and put that on for a day? I think there's a lot to work with in both of these cards. I see, thank you Saskia for that information. In both of these cards I see maybe a response to what I just said about the Hierophant, that I do have an obligation to go forward. I have an obligation to embrace my fearlessness. And I really feel the pause in both of these cards. And there's something about a Chariot that pauses that I really like compared to a Chariot that is racing full speed ahead. I think the Chariot is one of, it's like we're pulling together a bunch of information and a bunch of experiences and about to declare a major change in our lives. This particular deck on the right, the Tiger Tarot, strength is number 11. So just let me change that up. And Donna, you will like this. Beauty. Grace. There is a grace. Grace is beauty. And I think when we tap into that connection and that power of the feminine, that fortitude, inner resilience, we come to a place where the light of the Manipura chakra, the solar plexus chakra, can never be dimmed again. It's beautiful. I like how she has put the lemniscate over the eyes, the power of that symbol as one of awakening and opening. And again, there's a quietness in these cards. There's no need to roar here. The hermit ponders. The hermit reflects. There's a real innocence to the hermit on the right. A very youthful complexion. A tenderness almost. You know, we often see more of a crone type image in the hermit. Look at the third eye chakra of the hermit here. Looks just like the one in the Fool card. It's a beautiful correspondence, actually. See that? Something that shows me is that there was a question, you know, like the deck creator said, okay, so I know there's a correspondence between these two cards. How can I, other than using the art of Pamela Coleman Smith, the mountains, for example, how can I bring a correspondence here? And I think that's really something. It's beautiful. There's so many things I can comment on, so I'm going to try to just keep rolling here. But I just noticed something else, but let's go. Yeah, Wheel of Fortune, the wheel of change, the cycles of life, that ever-flowing energy that if we lean into that, embrace it, how much easier life shines and what greatness it can bring, what wisdom it can bring as well too. I really do get a sense of Jupiter, the greatness of Jupiter in both of these cards, the use of the gold, the light, the lightning, the aura around the figure on the left. It's really quite something. shall we turn to one reading from Letitia Barbier? Step into your totemic feline to embody. Oh, this is strength. That's really interesting. They've made a mistake in this little guidebook. Okay. A tiger moth flies high like a dark night, a sentinel protecting natural laws and making the sacred order of things are well tended. Nothing escapes their sharp eye, no transgression is unobserved, but one is equal, one is unequal. When one is unequal, we all suffer equally. When one is unequal, we all suffer equally. Be aware of your part in creating imbalance. It can be very confronting, can't it, Donna? Mm-hmm. And I understand, working with facings is super powerful in tarot reading. And so having lots of cards forward facing can be really challenging. Now here, I kind of have to comment on if this is Saturn. I'm not sure about Neptune's rings. If Neptune has rings, then this would feel a little awkward to me. I have really enjoyed building in planetary connections, and yet why not let this be Saturn and let this be, this is a card of boundaries in its own way. It is a card of being put beyond the border of the town. It is a card of being ostracized as much as it is a card of deep reflection. If you incorporate historical and more contemporary interpretations of the Hanged One. And I think suspension is a potent name change. This is a place where if both of these decks take us into dreams, that we kind of need to honor the suspended experience of our dreams. 13. It's kind of a wild card on the right. It reminds me a little bit of the Frida Kahlo deck. Does this remind you a little bit of Marie White's deck? The tiger emerging through the great sea. And now that I am studying Minkyate and studying some of these older decks and reflecting on the virtues in the tarot, I have a feeling that these cards, strength, temperance, justice, and the other 5 virtues as well, are going to start to influence how I may read the tarot in general. Temptation and the devil. in either of these decks, Letitia Barbier says, befriend it to understand and channel its power. One of the things about this card is that I always want it to have the possibility of allowing, if we let the walls come down, then something else about who we are will be revealed. I'm just looking at the other book. This concept, like in older tarots, so most of you know this card was not included in older tarots, it's something that came in later, is not does not exist in most African traditional religions. That would be a good page to review in this book. This one, it reminds me, there is a card in the Osho Zen Tarot. Reminds me of that. But what a brilliant, I like both of these tarot cards. They speak to a different aspect of what needs to change, what needs to fall away in order for us to move forward. And you know, when I think of this card here, I think of, this is a Mars card, if you're reading it that way. And if you're working with a tree of life, you're aware that Jupiter comes before Mars. And maybe it is the lavishness, the excessiveness of Jupiter that creates the experience of what needs to come apart in the Tower card. So we have another Saturn-looking planet here in this card. And what this makes me think of is how important the concept of boundaries is. And I think in both of these decks, you know, we want to respect our own personal limitations and reflect on, you know, how we set up these boundaries at home and work with families and neighbors and communities, and what we are willing to test and break, where we're willing to go beyond. You really get the sense of the vulnerable here, and this almost looks like an embryo being reborn in the Star card. There is a cloak here that looks like it's ready to be removed. The moon. What if we all were to let the illumination of the moon empower? What I mean with this is the sense that often this card is about illusion and negative aspects of this card. And I've never read it this way. I always feel like there's something powerful and potently and potentially arising here. And I really get that in both of these cards. Donna, I did see your comment and I appreciate it. The strength of the sun certainly is felt here. And one of the interpretations of this card that's come to mean so much through studying historical decks is the idea of love and even self-love, sense of confidence, a healing of the solar plexus. Allow the sun to illuminate who you truly are. This is really interesting. Can you see all these little, it's sort of a pixelated something down at the bottom here that this person is emerging through that. And it reminds me of another card in this deck where all of those pixelations are actually heads of people. And what I'm feeling here is this person rising through every soul they have met in this lifetime and other lifetimes, that this emergence is through a lifetime of experiences, through lifetimes of experiences. And in a way is deserving of the title of the first card in Dust to Onyx, the emerging one. And then here we have the universe and the world. Okay, so I know I'm at 48 minutes, but this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. So I am going to carry on. And I know that many of you won't be staying through this whole side by side. And I likely will go a little more quickly unless I feel like talking about decanic correspondences. So thank you. Thanks all of you for being here today. And those of you that are sticking around or coming back and watching the replay, I encourage you to think about decanic correspondences, any other correspondences, and as always, I look forward to your comments once I'm done here. You know, this feels like a complete and utter reset. It feels like a breakthrough. If you don't know Michelle Motuz's decks, they are rather shamanic in nature. They're kind of brilliant, and they look a bit like chalk paintings. Yeah, that would be really fun to do that, to do some pairings with the Dust to Onyx Tarot. And you know, we do have quite a few different tarot decks that see the Ace of Wands as the breaking open of the third eye. Two. Okay, so the first decan of Aries, a going forth. Can you see here there is a figure in a rather condensed downward facing dog? And the 3 wands, one supports. And there's another, it almost looks like there's another figure down here. And if you know what that means and you know what that feels like and you know how hard it is to find that release in a downward facing dog, to sustain that position, Adho Mukha Shavasana. Threes, there's a growth in threes. And I feel that growing energy and the connection to the growth of fire in both of these cards. Too bad there's a wedding gown here. You know, there's a lot of layers we can work with in this particular card, and it's not just about marriage. There's so much more to this particular Venus in Aries decan. The 4 of Staffs is quite clever. It is congratulations to your efforts. Your hard work is finally paying off. You are laying a solid foundation for your future. This could be through completing a fundamental phase in a project or even buying a home. Yeah. I mean, you've heard me talk about this card so many times. But let's go back to the initial intention of putting these 2 decks side by side and the honoring of the goddess. And I think that is important mentioning here, that with this being a Venusian decan, the power of the feminine shows up in all of this martial energy of Aries and plays a very important role here. Did you know that 5s, and in these decks that were used for, not these decks, but the ones that I've been studying that are part of games, tarot games, that frequently the swords and the wands, ace to 10, work in an ascending order like they do in most tarot decks, and yet the cups and the pentacles, the cups and the coins, work in the opposite way, so that the ace of those suits carries more energy than the 10. In all cases, the 5 is always in the middle. The card of challenge, the card of so no matter how we travel, which way we are going, whether we're going up the tree of life, down the tree of life, whether we're playing a game of tarot, these 5s in the middle want us to grow. They want us to be better. And in that way, the connection and what I was saying about the Hierophant card feels so very relative here. And I want to have a look at the other fives as well too, maybe not in detail today, but thinking about why they are so necessary in cracking us open. Six of Staffs, Six of Wands. You know how much training it takes to juggle fire, to hoop dance with fire. One of my daughters did this. I don't know if she still does it. And I think of her journey in learning to hoop, perform, and play with fire. And I want to think about that metaphorically and all that she grew through. Interesting that came to mind. Seven of Wands. Do you remember that conversation I shared? It came up with a client, and we were talking about Black women and the power of Black and all that Black represents in the tarot. It's the shadow, the darkness, the deep connection with the divine feminine, and how Black women must know something about the divine feminine that white women can't quite tap into. And there's something here that reminds me of that. Mary Beth, hello, hello, welcome. One of the things about the Eight of Wands that has come quite later in my tarot reading is I want to be mindful of the potency of Mercury in this card. And there's something here that I feel in the card on the right. And yet, if you've studied anything about Mercury, and you'll know why speed and the idea of rapid change is such an important part of this card. It's so important that this energy of this card is balanced by Venus. And it's kind of interesting that we have this rich floral energy in this particular Eight of Wands, harmonizing all of that mercurial energy. Nine of Wands. Another thing with this deck, I'm just thinking that I'm not sure I've been paying attention, is where the tigers are emerging. And that reminds me of another deck. I don't know which one it might be, but is it Tarot of the She? I'm not sure. In Tarot of the She, certainly in the major arcana where the glyph is appearing. But there is another deck, I can't think what it might be, where it would be important to see how the tigers are emerging. And here we have the lamb and the tiger. And look at this, that this one is on a dais, probably being carried. And I imagine those wands marching along the side. There's a lot of strength that would be required in holding a staff out front and a staff behind. And this card is often called the little strength card. 10 of Wands. A power in seeing something dharmic through to the end. The minor, so in the court cards, the page is called Lil Staff. And the story of the court cards in Dust Onyx is really beautiful and very dreamlike. Definitely worthwhile rereading that guidebook if you do have it. Knight of Wands. And this one is called Young Staff. So it's Lil Staff, Young Staff. And then in the Tiger Tarot, we have also a Prince of Wands. So there are 6 court cards for each suit in the Tiger Tarot. And, you know, this is not the only deck to have 6 court cards. In the Metelli Tarot, I believe. No, it's the Madrone. It's the Madrone Tarot. There are 6 court cards. There is a masculine and feminine page, and a masculine and feminine knight, and a queen and a king, allowing for greater diversity in the court cards. And in this particular deck, we have a knight as well as a androgynous or a queer prince, offering quite a different energy. Queen of Wands, Mama Staff. And yet, in Dust to Onyx, the court card order is Papa Staff and then Mama Staff. And that the authority in the end all falls to the Mama Staff. That she is the ruler, she is the leader, she is the one that is indeed in charge. So Papa Staff, Mama Staff, King of Wands, Queen of Wands. Here's the beautiful Mama Staff. And one of the things in the guidebook is that the eyes that are peering through the collages, I believe in all cases they are credited. The 6th court card in the Tiger Tarot is the Soothsayer of the suit. And the Soothsayer of the suit carries the most magic and mystery and power. Ace of Gourds, Ace of Cups. I get a real sense of, again, cracking open and awakening in both of these cards. While this is not maybe a little bit of a texture, like you can actually feel the texture, you certainly feel like the water and the blood in this deck on the left is another dimension. And in different ways, both of these decks, in some cards, do feel like a more classic tarot. These robes look like water. You know, and I wonder, do you remember the masks? Bye, Saskia. Good night to you. Do you remember the masks in the Lover's card? It feels like these masks, these are the masks from the lovers that have been lifted. And then I encourage you on all of these cards to think about not only perhaps decanic associations, but also the potency of the number, growth through water. This looks like somebody I know. Four of gourds, Four of cups. Lunar. So this is a lunar decan. You know, the solidity, the potential solidity of this card, I believe, is one that if we allow the energy of the moon to speak through us, that we don't deny it. And we have a dragon, right? A dragon mask. I mean, maybe it is a tiger. It's a tiger tarot, so it probably is a tiger, but it looks like a dragon to me. Again, a fierceness, a fearlessness in this card of important transition. The weight of all of these gourds, right, being carried. What would it feel like if we actually carried all of our pain, all of our emotions externally in a container? Six of Cups. There's a beautiful dance going on here and something emerging in the center of this Six of Cups. And this is just sort of a riot of color, collage. And there's a really interesting shaped vessel here with the tiger emerging. Wow. So, as in many collage decks, and one of the reasons why they can be so very challenging to work with, and I said I wasn't going to address that, is the sheer number of cutouts in the picture that can make it so difficult to work with. I'm really liking this triangle here. And I want to say that these hands are in, this kind of a gesture, supporting one another, a true embrace of connection. Seven of gourds. And there is a face here on the right in the darkness. I think this is a card that really asks us to think about our relationship with all of the senses and how we respond to them. And maybe there is one that needs to rise. And I'm just thinking about the double Venusian energy here. And it is very powerfully in the sign of Scorpio, if you read the tarot that way. 8 of Cups. Entering into the world of Pisces. And I can never forget that this particular card follows the 7 of Swords, decanically speaking. And so there's something I'm often looking for here. In that connection, in a reading. What are we going to do with all of that Jupiter energy here? What is the very best way to embrace it? And for me personally, I think it is by sharing the experience of it. What I mean here is that if you are working with Pisces ruled by Jupiter, if this is a Jupiter decan, this is the middle decan, it is it's such a powerful card. How can we embrace it without letting it ruin us? Ten of Cups. Looks almost like we're drowning here in all of this water energy. And yet the 10 cups are rising out of this pool. I think this is a really difficult decan to, difficult card to work with decanically speaking. It is, Mars is the only planet that has an extra decan, and this is one of them. So we go Mars, Mars, end of Pisces, beginning of Aries. And I think it's another card that's asking a lot of us. It's such a card of a surging kind of energy. It's like the wheel of double fire, sort of. Here is your little gourd and your Page of Cups. Young gourd and Knight of Cups. This is a horizontal card. I mean, of course, you could read it this way. Prince of Cups. Mama Gourd and Queen of Cups. Double water energy and King of Cups. Now, we've seen this background before in a couple of cards. And so that would be kind of interesting to have one of those cards show up in a reading. And that King of Cups there, wow, that King of Cups is really feeling something. and yet remaining quite stoic. And your soothsayer of cups is here. So in working with the Suit of Swords, there's so much we can pick up on here. There is, of course, the finding a voice. And in this particular one, I just feel like the throat chakra is being awakened, is being asked to be, it's like it's being cut open. So much energy surging here, and what a surge of energy in the Tiger Tarot. Let me move these back so they're on the same side for the whole video. Now, another correspondence, of course, is the element of air, which is going to awaken and stimulate the heart chakra. And in that regard, this suit responds to the suit of water, the suit of the sacral chakra. Now, this is not often discussed in tarot. It's just something that has come to be really important to me as I work with a lot of different layers when I'm doing readings through the different studies that I have done, practices. Definitely a dream. There's an aspect of dream in all of these, and this powerful sort of shamanic energy here. Growth through air. Growth. See what I mean? How the blood, like the water, almost takes on another layer, another energy in this deck. Stability of the mind, peace of mind, growing through a new foundation. Four of Blades looks a little different in this one. In Dust Onyx, I meant. Courtney Alexander writes, after the heaviness of the Three of Blades, we are given a bit of reprieve. The previous card can feel like going through surgery. You feel cut open, exposed, and even once you sew yourself back up and prepare to heal, you must still make time for rest. And it's funny, here is an example, and Courtney writes a lot of brilliant things in her book, but I feel like this is an example that is trying too hard to take too much from Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork and force it on her cards. I think there are other things that are being said here that are equally potent and could be described in other ways. And it's funny, I've come across a lot. Here's another example, right? We've got this potent opening here in the Five of Blades. where deck book writers, tarot deck book writers default to meanings that I feel like they almost take away from the magic of the deck because they're using canned meanings rather than writing from their heart and their art. It's like something's actually being cut in the Seven of Swords. Like breaking free. Eight of Blades, Eight of Swords. They both almost, they look like they're in a body in which they don't feel comfortable. And I think both deck creators speak to this through their connection to the LGBTQ community in the in just addressing that question. And that may be reflected in a family, a culture, a community, and a physical body. Another great breakthrough card. Can we break through and break open, or surrender, let go? I feel that there's a really unique connection here between these two cards, in that if indeed we are able to release attachment to that which is causing struggle in our life right now, that we awaken ourselves to the stars. There's definitely something being opened in both of these Tens of Swords. Little Blade and Page of Swords. If you have this tarot and you haven't gone back and pulled out all the cards with the Saturn-looking planet in them, that might be something really interesting to do. What truth is the Knight of Swords asking of you? Where is the Knight of Swords carrying you? And here we see the Prince of Swords bowing down to maybe another aspect of self. They look like very feminine legs bowing down to... Wow, that's a really interesting card. And I get another sense of awakening, cracking open in young blade. Here is Mama Blade. So much wisdom looking in these eyes here. I'm just thinking about the iris and the symbology of iris and how I might bring that in that card. And then here is the King of Swords that looks a little bit like a devil. I'm just thinking with the belly, with the face on the belly in older historical decks. And the Soothsayer of Swords. Love how the tiger is looking up to the heavens. And then the final suit. Now, there's something a little different in the Tiger Tarot in terms of the final suit. This is the suit of eyes. And I guess I should read this to you. The intention for the suit of eyes is one of a more refined, I don't know if that's the right word, higher frequency of the suit of Pentacles. And I don't know how quickly I can find that for you. It is meant to incorporate the best of the suit of Pentacles. And I think the metaphor of the eye as the fourth suit, as the final suit. Now, in Courtney Alexander's deck, she begins with the suit of Pentacles, and I know there's different ways of looking at this. So whether you move from the suit of coins or you move to the suit of eyes, another interesting part of the discussion of tarot. Two of eyes. Little change card. Little wheel card. And then how are we, or how have we learned to better embrace the concept of growth by the time we get to a suit such as this? What have we learned in what the number 3 represents? Together we are stronger, and certainly in this deck it reminds me of the idea of reciprocity, not just with other humans, but with all species. 4 of coins, 4 of eyes. There is a sense of sacred space that is created in all 4s. through the protection, the solidity, the stability of the four. Kind of unusual choice of colors in the Four of Eyes. So certainly a card to think about more thoroughly. Five of Coins, my absolute favorite card in this deck. Look at the light here. Wow. In order to know the beauty of this card, there's a lot that we must leave behind. And this is perhaps the scariest of all of the fives, because we have learned and acquired and come to get comfortable with a lot of things. And this card, as a card of growth, like all of the fives, asks us to let go. And it's not an easy energy to move through. Six of Eyes, Six of Coins. Even the moon is letting go. That's beautiful. This is an unusual card. Six of Eyes. It's called Jubilee. Be the revolution you want to see in the world with the Six of Eyes. Be the punk. Be the embodiment of dissidence. Be petulant and fierce. Be the clown that artfully breaks the system. This card is an affirmation of your authenticity. Planted in the ground, hands on the hips, you shine your true colors and revive the sorrowful world. Seven of Eyes and Seven of Coins. We have an orangutan here. And a human form, I think, in the foreground. I want to reread that one. Eight of Coins. Eight of Eyes. Great poignancy here. This is an important card to me in the tarot, and in decks that I use all of the time, or decks that I love and I refer to, this is such an important card. I really do get a sense here of Hode balancing Venus, for sure. A sense of awakening into who we are. Nine of Coins, Nine of Eyes. These both look familiar. There's a sense of pride, I feel, in both of these. In all the paths that I have walked, in all that I have learned, in all that I have done, I find myself in this place of glory and beauty and growth. I really like that one. 10 of Coins, 10 of Eyes. neither of these cards leaning into any tree of life correspondence, but I like this one, and you get a sense of moving on and leaving, and this one, the growth is happening, is rising up. And so, yeah, all tens are about leaving, all tens are about growth, all tens are about a new cycle. And here it's not a tiger mask, it's the mask of a bird, a crown of a bird. And we've got water, a passageway here. It almost looks as if lightning is striking through that passageway. Here is page of coins, little coin and page of eyes. Get a sense that they see more than most of us do. Knight of eyes. And here is the prince. One thing that I've said over the years is that I really do like working with a 78 card deck and the number 7. If I am working with a deck that has more than 78 cards, it does mess with the numerology. And so if I'm reading with a deck such as the Tiger Tarot, I feel like I'm going to embrace more of what I am learning and picking up with tarot decks that have many more cards. And I was also thinking about the El Cento Tarot in terms of some of the, like the Soothsayer cards and some of the extra cards, and not reading with them so numerologically. And I think that's why in the Minchiati series I want to bring in more of the gaming connections, the tarot game connections to the readings. Mama Coin and the Queen of Eyes. Papa Coin. Look at these lovely autumnal colors. It's an interesting connection here between the embellishment above the third eye and something going on here. Like Papa Coin is very accomplished, learned. Soothsayer of Eyes. And the extra card in this deck is Soothsayer of Sleep, which perhaps is very fitting, seeing as how this deck is one that is built on this dream world of Laurie Field. And then the extra card in the Dust to Onyx is a reflection card. It's a mirror. And so thank you for those of you that have been here and been through this entire walkthrough. Really 2 or 3 purposes for doing this. One is that I've wanted to pull out all of my collage decks and have another look at them because none of them have been remaining on my acrylic stand for readings for very long. They seem to disappear quickly, find them challenging to work with, and wanted to have another good look and see if there's any that I need to pull out. And then the other reason for today's video was to really honor the strength of these two women, Courtney Alexander and Lori Field, in their bravery in building these two quite extraordinary decks. So thank you. I look forward to any feedback that you have to offer. And if not, until next Saturday, I will see you soon. Namaste.